Pokemon Red and Blue might be the hardest Pokemon games of all time because they were the first ones, so the rules made less sense and they were less established and it was a lot harder. But today I'm going to be making it even harder by doing a Nuzlocke challenge. If you don't know what that is, basically you can only catch the first Pokemon that you find in any given area. If a Pokemon faints, then it dies and you can't use it anymore. You have to box it and you have to nickname all of your Pokemon. And I'm also going to be playing it randomized, so every Pokemon is random. Every trainer Pokemon, every wild Pokemon, or starters, you name it, they're all random. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So I wake up and open up my PC and immediately get the best electric type TM in the game. I then headed over to Professor Oak's lab to find out what my starter would be, and the options were Pyroar, Petlil, or Blossom, and out of the three, I just figured that Pyroar would be the strongest early game, mid game, and late game, and also fire types, they're not terrible in this gen. Everybody says they're bad just because grass types are better, but I think that Pyroar's stats are much better than Blossom, so that's why I picked him. I had named him Blaze and moved on to the first route where some guy gave me one of the best water TMs in the game. I then managed to get my first Pokeballs and tried to catch this Amora, but I tried to lower it, and then I went ahead and went for a ball, but it wouldn't stay in, so I lowered it again, went for a ball, wouldn't stay in. Rinse and repeat that cycle quite a few times, and eventually I got a critical hit and killed it. Yeah, that kind of sucked, but it's whatever. Amara's not that good anyways. It would have been able to learn the Thunder TM because it gets that for some reason, but it's alright. I'm sure we'll find another Pokemon that gets that at some point. This thing was being really, bad, though, because it was just growling me the entire time, so my tackles would do less damage than they already were. So, yeah, not the best experience in my life, especially since I did all that work to not even get the Pokemon. But, it is alright. I then went out to Route 29, or whatever it is, by Viridian City, and then critical hit a Simisage and couldn't catch it, so that's the second encounter that I missed. I then went over to Route 2 and tried to fight him a champ, but that thing ripped me apart in one hit, and he almost took me out, and I decided I didn't want to end my Nuzlocke this early, so I ran. Things are going pretty bad so far, but I went into Viridian Forest and saw Chikorita, and I tried to catch it. But since I got the Bubble Beam TM earlier, I thought that's what Hyper Beam was. I thought it said Bubble Beam for some reason, so I accidentally killed it. And then, just to mess with me, the Forest threw another TM for Bubble Beam at me. Great. Now it was time for my first battle with Gary Oak. He had a Fletchling, which I absolutely demolished with Hyper Beam, that I now knew that I had, of course, because before I thought that it was Bubble Beam, even though I don't know why a Pyroar would get a Bubble Beam. Don't ask me. Then it sent out a Natu, and then I destroyed that with a Hyper Beam as well. Pretty easy first battle. I then went to Brock's gym in Pewter City and challenged one of his gym trainers who happened to have a Ho-Oh. Yes, a Ho-Oh. It was doing a lot of damage with those whirlwinds, considering it was 4 levels lower than me, but I did manage to take it out. It then sent out a Lapras, which was equally as scary because I was weak to it, but luckily a Hyper Beam did the trick. I feel like I'm kind of relying on that move at this point, but I do that even more later on. And it was time for the actual Brock fight, and that went pretty well. He started off with the Delphox, and it was kind of an awkward situation because we were both fire types, and I think, obviously, my Hyper Beam and my other normal type moves would have been fine, except for Delphox, I thought for some reason was a ghost type. I don't know why I was thinking that, but it's a psychic type, so I could have done that, but instead I just embered it until it died. And then it sent out its next Pokemon, which was a Simisage, which, I mean, for Blaze, it went down in a blaze of glory. Okay, I'm sorry, I just had to make that joke at some point. But it seriously did survive one hit, which was pretty impressive to me. But, yeah, we took out Brock, and now Blaze is extremely over-leveled. It's at level 18, while it's battling, level 12s and 14s and stuff. And that problem gets even worse later on until I start using other Pokemon. So just prepare for Blaze to be extremely over-leveled. And then I got another TM for Teleport. I then went on to the next route and tried to get a Pokemon, but apparently a Drifloon can't survive an Ember. I don't know why I'm that surprised because I was 15 levels higher, but yeah. This guy right here usually scams you to buy a level 5 Magikarp from him for 500 bucks, but this time around I got a Meloetta. So, yeah, extremely crazy. After naming it Alan in the cave, I found a Motham. I actually caught this, believe it or not. Spoiler alert, for like the first time in forever, I caught something. And I sent out Alan until I realized just how powerless Alan is. Even with a crit, I barely did any damage, so I switched back out into Blaze. But don't worry, I didn't make some dumb move and go for Ember on a bug type. I actually caught it, and then once I got it, I went ahead and named it Jill. Now, Jill, it kind of has a little bit of an interesting story later, so just wait for that. It's pretty good. Then found out that Alan can learn Thunder, so now I have a Meloetta, a Pokemon with an insanely high special attack that has the move Thunder, which is 110 base power special move. Yeah. I then stole the Helix fossil from an old nerd. I then went over to the next route where I tried to catch an Electivire, but of course, it died by an Ember, so couldn't get that. And it was time for the next big fight against the Water Gym leader, Misty. She red with a Slugma, which I was able to take out immediately with a Hyper Beam. Pretty easy. The next thing she sent out, though, was a bit more of a challenge. It was a Snorlax, and it was higher level than the last one, but still, it went down to 2 moves. I used Hyper Beam, and then I went ahead and went for another Hyper Beam because it raised its physical defense, so I didn't want to do Headbutt and risk it. But yeah, I defeated Misty pretty easily. Now Blaze is even more over-leveled. He's level 26, fighting like late teen, early 20 levels. And yeah, that battle went pretty well overall. I then took on Gary Oak once more, where he also had a Snorlax, but it was lower leveled than Misty's, so pretty easy to take out. Then he had a Feebas, and it was only level 15. I'm sure you can guess what happened there. Able to take that out pretty quickly. I did take a bit of recoil damage from takedown, but it's alright. She then sent out a Hippowdon, so went ahead and Hyper Beam that. Probably not the best decision to stay in with Blaze, because it could have had like Earthquake, but it still wouldn't have killed me because I had a huge level advantage. Then a Blossom, which, you know what happened to that. It got absolutely disintegrated. So yeah, my next battle with Gary was pretty easy. I then went on to the next route where I found a Carbink, and this time, this Carbink gave me quite a bit of trouble. I wanted to lead with Jill so that somebody else could get levels, but it absolutely destroyed him. So we went ahead and switched over to Alan because I was going to use Thunder. Even though it's 110 base power, still doesn't do a lot of damage because I was 8 levels lower, and I mean, it's a Carbink still. Like, I'm a Meloetta, but Carbink is still very strong. So then I switched into Blaze, which I didn't want to have to do, but I did. And I went for an Ember. Now, I debated this because I was worried that it was going to kill because it's killed everything so far. But it did not. Obviously it resists it, but I still didn't know. Like, Blaze is OP. He's at level 30, and he's fighting teen level Pokemon. But, yeah, eventually we did get the Carbink in the ball, and then once I got it in the ball, I decided to name it Stald for some reason, S-T-A-L-D. Don't ask me why I did that, just kind of a name that I thought of off the top of my head, and yeah. I then went on to the next area and found a Prinplup. Now, this thing had Bubble Beam, which, you know, I don't have the best history with, but, it's okay. I didn't use it here, it used Bubble, but it has Bubble Beam on it. But, yeah, I got a low battery warning there, I had to watch out for that. But I did manage to catch it, and then once I did catch it, I felt pretty good, because it was good to have a nice water type. That's not really something that we've had thus far. And after I caught that beautiful boy Prinplup, I decided to name it Sheldon, because I was watching Young Sheldon while I did this. I then went on to the next rival battle on the SSN, where he led with an Axew. That was extremely easy to take out. Then he sent out a Torchic. I'm sorry, little buddy, but you have to go. You gotta go. He was half my level, so it wasn't that hard. But, yeah, he still brought out a cool Pokemon at the end. I took out this Smeargle, but then he sent out a Genesect. So yeah, Gary Oak has a Genesect now. When'd you pick that up, buddy? It was really worrying me because it was screeching me and getting crits, and that actually did a bit of damage. But luckily, Blaze had enough effort and energy to push through it, and yeah, everything was fine, and we defeated Gary Oak once more. I then had to teach somebody Cut, so now Alan the Meloetta is an HM slave. Now it was time for an interesting battle. This was the battle with Lieutenant Surge, and for once, I'm not leading with Blaze. I was leading with Stald, and since he was using fire types, Stald actually got a bit of work done. I had a 5-level disadvantage, but Stald the Carbink pulled through, did pretty well, got a level, and then he decided to send out an Ariados, another thing that Stald could do, and I'm like, geez, for once, Blaze isn't getting all the action, Stald is. Things did get a bit scary for him, but luckily, I used Rock Slide again, and I was completely fine from that Ariados. And then he went out and sent out a Hoopa. Now, I was like, no, I wasn't keeping Stalled in there, and I don't know why I didn't just switch out when it gave me the option to, but I didn't, okay? And then, like an idiot, I used Hyper Beam on a Hoopa. I was thinking it was Psychic type, not Ghost, okay? Don't ask me why I just was. But yeah, I took out that Hoopa pretty easily. I then went over to the next area where I had the opportunity to catch a level 12 Durant. I was still leaving with Stald because I realized that it didn't just have to be Blaze that could carry the team. You know, it could be a Carbink and a Pyroar. So yeah, I went for a Pokeball and it got out of that. That's okay though. It decided to attack me and do basically nothing. Went for another Pokeball and then got it. And I decided that since Durant was such a special Pokemon, I would give it a very, very important special name. And that name was the name of Ben. I then went into the cave and had the opportunity to catch a Pikachu. Now, if I still had that Thunder TM and didn't put on what was now my HM slave, that would have been really good. It would have been really good, but unfortunately I decided to do that. So instead, I just had to catch the Pikachu. I had to buy more Pokeballs. But luckily, it at least got in the ball, and then once I had it, I decided that I would go ahead and name it something extremely special once again. I would name it Ash, after Ash. Alright, time for a team recap. We have Stow, the level 18 Carbink, Alan, the level 5 Meloetta, Blaze, the level 34 Pyroar, Sheldon and Ben aren't going to be using much, so I'm not going to read off their stats, and Ash, the level 18 Pikachu. Now, I hate to do this, but I'm not going to upload a 45-minute video, so what I decided to do is split this video into 3 parts. That was part 1 of 3. Come back probably about next week for part 2, and yeah, join in on this adventure with me.